North Cedar Street pathway fences people's backyards, and South Cedar Street pathways starting new. They are breaking sidewalk codes, the utility poles are in people's yards, and the path is just plain crooked. North Cedar Street pathway extra number 1. There are many big cracks along the pathway and it is very tight space. And for the North Cedar Street pathway extra number 2, the person who has the fence is breaking the code, which isn't their fence is over a utility access code. And also, other than this, I have some questions and comments because today I went and looked at those again. And the questions I have are, who is the owner of the pathways? Does Mission own untitled land? Is this a case of adverse possession? Is the crossing guard working for Ferry or Mission Police? Because there is not a single Mission kid that has any benefit from the crossing guard. There's no sidewalk on 63rd Street, so the kids will have to ride their bikes on one of the busiest streets. And the monitoring will not help count how many kids use 63rd Street because it is so dangerous their parents have told them not to.
And Lola, or Danielle, tell us a little bit about that, again, the monitoring that is being conducted.
Sure, and that has to do with the pedestrian and bike counts that we started doing around all of the schools in Mission as part of the Safe Route study. We have been at Highlands, or our consultant's been at Highlands to look for kids who are currently walking, and we know that there are kids who just can't walk, and so we're trying to just get a good sense of what the current conditions are in and around schools. The next step will be to do a focus group with representatives from the school and the student bodies and the PTAs, and actually take them out and do a walking tour too, and ask them, okay, tell us what your areas of concern are, like Lola has with certain streets that are hard to cross, or places where the sidewalks are difficult, things like that.
In this, for this specific school, but isn't this going to be taken up by the people that are doing this survey that we're paying for on the safe?
The pedestrian counts are being done by Woodson, who's the consultant we've hired to help us do the study.
Right.
And then we take those.
So it's all going to be a comprehensive part of the
final
study and recommendations anyway, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And those are great questions, and we will definitely take a copy of Lola's questions and start working on them. I have already shared with her tonight some information about the easements and things like that we could find already. So.
Oh yeah? Like what? Give me a for instance.
Well, there is an easement in all of those corridors that she mentioned from the original plats in 1950 when it was dedicated to the county because the city didn't even exist then. It's labeled as a 10-foot walk easement, but there's no description of what or how it should be used. So unlike a utility easement that says we're dedicating this for use of X, Y, and Z utilities to be maintained by so-and-so, it just, all it is says walk easement. So it's a little bit unclear, but we've started to look into what it is, what we can find about it, what we can learn about it.
Is it county?
No, I mean, it was dedicated to the county because there was no city at the time. It's presumably now part of the city and part of the class for that land. So we'd have to probably ask our land use attorney exactly what that means for us. It would be best if it had a really great description, like this is to be used for walking by the public, you know, not to be obstructed by fences or whatever, but it doesn't say that right now.
The fence is a conundrum, isn't it? With already there, and yeah, that's one conundrum. And then the gate and the stairs, that's school property, I assume?
The gates and the stairs are on school property.
And do they lock that gate for a specific reason?
We will have that conversation with Highlands to see what they're doing, why they're doing it the way they're doing it. It may have to do with security for the school, or it may just be an oversight.
And same with the stairs, why they put stairs instead of
Yeah, it's not an ADA route, obviously, with stairs on it, but and we also obviously have a policy about where you should be riding your bike on school grounds. So that's kind of their operations side of things. Maybe they'd be willing to reevaluate that.
Great, thank you.
I thought it was excellent.
I did too.
Absolutely.
Great.
Thank
You know that one pathway that has the curve right there in front of it. If you hit that at full speed when you're on your skateboard, you can get to good area. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. No, that was information, and I guarantee you the city's gonna be looking into all this stuff, and we'll be using a lot of the information that you presented to us, and
Will you be part of the
Focus group?
focus
yeah,
group?
I heard you were gonna be.
Congratulations.
Thank
That is
you.
great.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Lola,
It's
did you
very
bring
important.
anybody with you?
My dad.
Your dad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Everybody
That's
will be a
great.
part of this. She was very,
Yeah.
She's
very
very good.
thankful for you addressing.
Thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can.
All started with opposing the meeting post, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, lots of points.
Yeah.
Very nice, thank you.
Thank you, Lola.
So what's the next step on that? What's the next step? Next thing that's
Safe
gonna
Routes
happen
to
with that?
School, we're still in the gathering pedestrian counts, organizing the focus groups, doing the data and gathering, and then moving on to talk about recommendations.
Okay.
Well, a funny fact, I believe we were scheduled to count north yesterday for the unscheduled change in schedule. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I would, or,
All right. I believe that brings us to an action item. All right. You wanna talk to us, Christie, about the weight equipment
Yeah,
replacement?
the MTS equipment that we have there at the community center is the original equipment that we purchased. It's called an isolateral piece of equipment, so they're weight machines. A lot of weight machines, they work dependent on each other. So if you're lifting, say a bench press, and you lift with, you can push more with one arm than the other, you can still get the equipment to go up. The isolateral is an independent piece of equipment, so you can't cheat. You have to use each side of your muscle equal amount. So anyway, like I say, that is the original piece of equipment, or those are the original pieces of equipment. So definitely time to get those replaced. That was budgeted in this year's CIP program. We budgeted $60,000 for that. We currently have 14 pieces of equipment. We're going to go back to them with 11 because we have some redundancy, several pieces that do the same thing. You maybe sit a little different, but you're using the same muscle groups. That'll free up some floor space for us, give us some more area for people to do some stretching and toning activities. But then it'll also allow for us to replace a lot of our dated dumbbells and benches as well. So anyway, got a bid for that for $46,023, and like I said, we had 60 budgeted.
Good. I see. Anybody got a recommendation?
I'll recommend that to the council.
that was an excellent recommendation.
That's such a
Before we
consent
get that
agenda.
bid, I saw that we got a trade-in credit.
Yes.
Did we get any, like, bulk discount? And we're purchasing quite a bit from them.
They actually have not only the state, but also the national purchasing agreement.
Okay.
So,
Okay,
yeah.
thanks, I didn't realize that.
We're buying this equipment, not
Correct,
leasing.
yeah.
There's other equipment that we lease.
Cardio equipment we lease.
Thank you, sir.
How long is it gonna last?
Your lifetime.
15 years.
It has a real longevity to it.
Yeah,
Man, that's a shot
Particularly
right
if you keep
there.
having rents with it. Did you hear me?
No.
I said, particularly if you keep having rents.
Yeah. I'm in
You had
a
a wreck?
rental car, yeah. All right. I think you're all
Thank you,
good.
Christie.
Yes,
Thank you.
Discussion items, we only got one of those, and it's the Johnson Drive speed limits / pedestrian safety. John and the chief, I guess John's gonna start it off.
Yes. Last month, we came to you guys and told you that we had contracted with Woodson to do a traffic study of Johnson Drive now that it's reconfigured and complete. The reason for this study is we were hearing concerns about speed through the corridor and pedestrian safety. Like I was talking last month, typically what you do when you set a speed limit for a corridor is when you do the traffic study, they set the speed limit off of what's called the 85th percentile speed.
Right.
In engineer talk, that's kind of the range where people feel most comfortable driving, given the conditions around them. If you try to set that speed limit lower, you have the potential for a lot of people to be going above the speed limit. If you try to stray too high, you increase your risk for accident. So that's why they take that percentile consideration when they set that speed limit. The study concluded that the 85th percentile for Johnson Drive was 33 miles an hour. So based off of that, you would set your speed limit either 30 or 35 miles per hour if you're below the 85th percentile speed. The current speed limit on Johnson Drive is 30 miles per hour. So we brought it down on the lower end of the spectrum. Based on the traffic study too, you can kind of see where your outside lanes are moving a little bit slower than your inside lanes are. That's because you have the potential for somebody to be backing alley on street parking.
Plus you're looking to turn in somewhere.
Right. So I think the study kind of, I don't think that we got any real big surprises out of it. Average daily traffic, they did the study at 2 separate points. One kind of between Beverly and Dearborn, the other between Reeds and Outlook. The one on the west side was, the traffic counts were a little bit higher. They were about 12,000 per day. The ones on the east side were a little bit lower. They were about 10,750 per day. I don't know if you guys have any questions about the traffic study itself, or anything I can answer for you in regards to that.
It's about the speed limit. We've been considering the speed limit. Speed limit has been 30 all this time, and then they're coming back and saying that's right in the range that looks like it should be. And that's taking into account basically just the way people are driving on it. And I would assume people are driving 85% of them in that range because that's the speed limit on the street. I mean, wouldn't that? If the speed limit was 25 and they took the survey, wouldn't it come back with a little different figures?
I don't know that it would stray that much. It might bring it down some. But I think you would see if the speed limit was 25 that your 85th percentile speed would still kind of hover around that 33 miles an hour.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Okay, and they take into account like the area itself. It's not just the road, but the businesses and pedestrians.
Yeah, they do. A lot of their suggestions that they gave in this report was to do things to reinforce the fact that it is a 30-mile-an-hour zone. So high visibility patrol, traffic calming type things. I think and I'll let Ben get into the details of what his guys saw, but when we put out the message boards that say crosswalk enforcement ahead, I think that's kind of one of those things that grabs your attention and reminds you that, you know, the way that this corridor's set up now from what it used to be, you're having a lot more foot traffic, and you need to be aware of that. And I think that drives that point home when people actually drive by and they see that. You know, some other suggestions that were brought up were like, you know, you see the speed trailers when you drive by, it posts how fast you're going. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where when you're driving, you know, you're not constantly looking at your speedometer. And that's where that 85th percentile comes in, because that's where people feel comfortable driving. And when you have something like that to remind you, I think that just reinforces the fact that, you know, hey, you're coming into an area where there's a lot of foot traffic and you need to really be aware of your speed. Foot traffic, people backing out.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I'm more concerned about that than I am the speed of people that like to be driving there. The safety of whoever can get into that much cheaper.
well, like I say, the speed, the 85th percentile was 33 miles an hour, and we brought that, you know, so you would set it at either 30 or 35. We brought that down. I think the problem you'll have is if you start lowering it too much, You'll get people that break the speed limit more. And you kind of have those artificial things that it starts doing. If you slow it down too much, you start pushing traffic other places because it is so slow through there. You might see people start using a different route because of the speed limit. The other thing that we were a little bit concerned about was if you have the speed limit along Johnson Drive and you have 30 on one side, 35 on the other side, and then 25 in the middle, you've got it changing so much, and it almost becomes a quote-unquote speed trap, to where you're going this fast, you slow them way down, then you can speed back up. And it kind of artificially makes, gives that perception that you're basically.
Mission Road north of Shaw Mission Parkway had that reputation for a long time.
Right.
Yeah, because it did just that. We changed 3 different times.
So John, question for you. So I was just down in Denver a couple weeks back, and there's an area that looked and felt a lot like Johnson Drive. And one of the things, and I had a couple conversations with some merchants there around some of their thoughts around what they did for this area. And one of the things I noticed was a little different from what we had done versus what they had done. I'm just curious if we looked at some of these things. One, on the crosswalks where the lights are flashing on their side, on the actual pavement were flashing lights as well, not just on the side. So the actual physical crosswalk were lights that flash. So every kind of 12 feet was a little, I don't know, strip of light that blinked when that blinked to draw further attention to that crosswalk. The other thing they did where every crosswalk had one of those. So they had other crosswalks that used to be there, and they said, we just took those out. So they controlled where people crossed.
Right.
So I think we have some crosswalks that don't have lights on them, which may throw people off. Do I go to the lights? Do I go to this one? Which can cause motorists to be like, all right, are there going to be somebody here? Or is there someone only back there in those? So we thought about maybe looking at what it would be like to either put the lights at those crosswalks so people push it and indicate that that's where we're going to be crossing from, and maybe take some of those other ones away that aren't lighted, or so it helps us control that flow of pedestrian traffic. Or thinking about putting some of those strips down. I have no idea what the cost of those, I don't know the cost of those lights, but I'm just thinking if we control pedestrian traffic maybe, that might have motorists go, all right, I know when I come to this, there might be somebody there.
Right. Initially with the beacons that are there, we only had the one at Woodson, and then you guys decided to go ahead and add the 2 additional at Beverly and Reed's. This way it kind of gives you're never more than 1 block away from them. And then of course you have the pedestrian push buttons at Knoll and at Lamar. I don't think that those get utilized very much because your on-street parking is kind of pushed away from those intersections a little bit. And we can definitely look at adding looking into the lights actually through the crosswalk. As far as the beacons go, of course they're solar powered, so there's really no undergrounding.
Just the cost of installation and purchase.
Correct, and with the project, they were $18,000 a pair. So, just to give you the perspective of how that is. As far as removing the crosswalks, I think that we could definitely talk to the traffic engineers about that. I don't know, like you say, I think the benefit to that is you channel people
always to those signals.
To certain places.
Doesn't mean they're not going to jaywalk and go across what they want, but it might eliminate potential. I don't know, I'm just trying to think, because the last thing any of us want to have is somebody get hit there.
Right.
Well, and you hit the nail on the head, and that's where I was going to go with that too, is you have the potential of people,
just crossing willy-nilly.
in an intersection, I'm just going to go because I need to go here. but
Yeah,
it's always
yeah.
something that we can.
Maybe we
look
just
at.
think about it, and it's just something as I was looking at when I had, it was Denver, and I remember how these things were, and it was just kind of this, that flowed pedestrians in certain directions, and people kind of got used to that area. I'm crossing here, I'm crossing there, and, you know, obviously
Right.
people are still gonna cross, they wanna cross, but.
Well, and I think that with how different that is down there's still a little bit of a learning curve to get through. It's a lot different than what it was. And I think over time, just having it there and it being different, and people just kind of learning the feel of how that's going to work is going to help some too. Just everybody kind of getting through the newness of it.
How about the dip in Johnson Drive in Woodson? Has that helped?
I think it has.
You know, speed table.
The table?
Speed table.
Just being
You
out
got your
there.
car one a couple times over?
Not me.
Just being out there, and when we were at the construction office down there, it was interesting to watch how people would come up to that, and it was always brake lights. I mean, they were always slowing down before they, you know. So I think that it has helped to kind of be a traffic control measure, you know, or speed.
But it's
control.
right there with the blinking lights too, so you've got two controls right there at the same lot, right?
I've seen those lights you're talking about, and I saw them down in Florida. Mentioned it 3 or 4 years ago, and of course the comment was, well, Florida's a great place to have them. You don't get any snow, and you don't have to worry about street maintenance. And so I'm intrigued if there is a set in Denver, because I will tell you, they get your attention.
Super quick, they get it.
Particularly at night.
At night, yeah, they
When
do.
you have, you know, some of the higher risks. So and it may be cost prohibitive, post-installation may be impossible nightmare, but I have seen those. It's a good idea.
I'd like to see what that would cost us.
Is nighttime a major problem on Johnson Drive, like during the
Oh,
day or
probably
farmers
is.
market?
Unfortunately,
That's a good point,
probably,
Jennifer.
maybe someday
Yeah.
will be. Currently, it's probably.
Now, I think down
Or
by the
maybe-
bar.
Yeah,
Down by the bar,
that might
that's
be.
an issue.
Yeah.
You might need to have spotlights there.
No doubt.
So, yeah. How much would a sign cost that blinks, that does grab your attention in the area?
She thinks it's $18,000 a pair, right?
Well, that's for the regular.
Those are for the,
crosswalk.
yeah, those are for the what's currently there, same setup.
You were talking about just putting up a lighted sign every once in a while or something that said, yield to pedestrians or pedestrian.
Or they even have those signs that blink when you're
Crosswalk
going too
enforcement.
fast, you know,
Well,
that
and-
people put up every once in a while that.
Ben had talked about that too, you know, it's like the trailers that you see that the
Mhm.
police departments have, that when you go by it, it's got a speed limit sign on it, and it says your speed X. And they also have speed limit signs that you can actually hang on a post that do the same thing. So that's gonna be something else that we look into.
Is it a major problem? Are you guys seeing major safety issues?
Yeah, great segue. Going back to the lights, I stood at Johnson Drive and Dearborn the other day, 12:30 in the afternoon when lunch rush was going on, as it does. And I'm looking off to the east, and I can see every one of those bright yellow signs on Johnson Drive that shows where the crosswalks are. And when people push the button and it's flashing white at 12:30 in the afternoon, and I can see it from a couple blocks down,
That's a good sign.
it's a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have some updated, we talked a little bit about accidents before.
Yeah, thank you.
So the chart in the upper left, now these stats are from September 15th of 2014 for an entire year, all the way through September 15th, 2015. So the upper left chart is all of Johnson Drive, from Row all the way to Metcalf. And we had told you at the last meeting that we had 53 accidents in a year on Johnson Drive. That's about 1 week. So, and when you take into account how many cars go down Johnson Drive in a day, I think we're safe to assume that we're probably in the 60 to 90,000 range in a week. 60 to 90,000 cars going down Johnson Drive, and 2 of them happen to bump into each other. It's pretty good.
Pretty good.
When you go to the chart in the lower left-hand corner, that is the total accidents for that same year between Lamar and all. the area that we're looking at, and there was 16 accidents. So that's about one car wreck in that area every 3.25 weeks. So essentially just over one a month. And you can see the reasons for those accidents. We were talking about parking. One accident in that area was for improper backing, and that car was backing out of the parking stalls on Johnson Drive right at Goodson's, at Lamar, and backed into a car that was stopped waiting for the traffic light.
Oh, sorry.
So,
Did you take their license for a couple
It
of
was
days?
not me, it was not.
not paying attention. So,
I didn't touch her.
so when you can see that accident rate, and you're still talking about the same number of cars to have an accident every 3.25 weeks in that area, when you're talking 60 to 80,000 cars a week. I'm not really seeing.
This covers Lamar?
That's
Johnson Drive,
that's
that
Johnson.
intersection?
Yep,
No, from Lamar to Knoll.
right.
Okay, so it's not covering the intersection there,
It covers Lamar to Knoll.
but not the intersection of Lamar and Johnson Drive.
No, it does.
It does?
So,
And knowledge of it.
Well, Lamar.
believe it or
and
not,
Johnson Drive is one
Rodmore and
accident.
Johnson Drive is worse than Lamar
Really?
for our accidents. So, just from looking at this, I'm not seeing a lot of accidents. We had, just after this data was collected, because it shows September 15th, right? A couple days after that, somebody stopped for somebody that was in the crosswalk and got rear-ended by the person behind them.
Fine.
So, no pedestrians have been hit, knock on wood, on Johnson Drive. When you look in the upper right-hand corner and that little blue chart, police jargon for you, 1047 is non-injury accidents, 1048 is injury accidents. So for one whole year, we had 12 injury accidents out of 365 days on Johnson Drive. And 6 hit and runs, somebody hit somebody and left. So, the enforcement part that we did, if you look at the chart in the lower right-hand corner, the red one. So we did this for 9 days, 2 hours over lunch, 2 hours at dinner time. There was a training day, somebody called in sick, so we worked this for about 30 hours. We made 14 traffic stops, so you averaged a car stop about every 2 hours. We can't see all the intersections between Knoll and Lamar from where you're at, but you can see most of them. No pedestrian stops, which means that nobody was jaywalking for the whole time that we did it. We were at 3 tickets for failing to yield to pedestrians in the crosswalks. We gave 3 warnings for it. Wrote 6 speeding tickets, 1 warning for speeding. We talked about the jaywalking. Other tickets issued that could be expired tags or no proof of insurance, things of that nature. But you're averaging 1 car stop every 2 hours.
What was it, when were you doing this? What was the time?
We did it from 11:30 to 1:30, and again from 4:30 to 6:30.
So like 4 hours total?
Yeah, each day for 9
Did you
days.
see a big
For 9
difference?
days?
For 9 days. And we did not,
36 hours.
we did, well, but we had, one person was sick for 2 hours, and then another one, they got called off for DUI. So we worked it for about 30 hours out of 36. So, this does not include, we tried to stay with most of the restaurants and everything are busy during the week, so we did not do the enforcement on the weekend. But it was
So did you
2,
see a big difference between the noon hour and the dinner hour?
noon hour was busier.
So you had more tickets during the noon hour?
What did the business people say about your contacting them and letting them know what was going on? Were they receptive to this? Were they concerned about the speed limits?
It wasn't so much the speed limit. Me and the entire command staff went to every business on Johnson Drive between Knoll and Lamar before this even started. They all felt that the crosswalks were a problem. They were glad to see that we were taking the corrective steps. I believe Emily and some of the other city staff were out talking to the pedestrians that were walking across the street. Had we not advertised this through parts of the media, or Emily been out doing what she was doing, or maybe it was part of the crosswalk enforcement ahead, or maybe seeing the police car on the motorcycle, it could have been any of those, or it could have been none of them. But for us to get a car stop every 2 hours in that area, in my opinion, does not tell me that we have a huge problem. But like I said, had we not put the crosswalk stuff out there and we just went down there out of the blue one day and just did it for 9 days, it might have been different. So, with that being said.
So you did have the sign that said.
Yeah, I saw.
There was one on each end that said crosswalk
Yeah,
enforcement.
enforcement, yeah, I saw.
So, and still, even though the signs are out there for people to speed through that area, or not stop for the people in the crosswalks, because, I mean, we obviously stopped 6 people for that and wrote 3 tickets and gave 3 warnings, so 6 people didn't read the signs. So,
You only have to stop if they're blinking, correct?
Correct.
If somebody's at
if
them.
somebody's in it.
If somebody is,
There's no one in there.
Did they say they did not see the people or?
I didn't ask the officers that,
Okay.
so.
It was the lit crosswalks where you wrote the ticket?
I don't know if it was the lit ones or not, but it was a fully marked crosswalk that they wrote in.
That somebody was actually standing there waiting to cross it?
Or had started to cross and then jumped back up on the curb. I heard it on one of those.
Oh, okay.
And that happens sometimes. I told you guys before that, I know, I told you guys I took my kids across there. And that was the part that concerned me was is the, you know, some of those cars, either they don't pay attention or they don't see you. Yeah, I think they would care if they hit you, but,
Oh,
you
they
know,
would,
it's,
they would.
it's one of those things I am intrigued by what you were talking about with the lights on the street. If you can see the lights on the poles, adding lights in the street, I think it's just another benefit.
It's
And
brand
maybe
new
people will
drivers.
see it, right?
Maybe. Because for me, it's always, the speed, I think is interesting how the study proved that 30 might be fine, still seems fast for me, but I think it's the pedestrian is the issue. You're drawing attention and having them go across an area where we think is the safest route.
well, I think Emily, you want to talk about what you talked about, the bike people?
Absolutely. We had a good time. We went down and we chatted with the pedestrians that we found down there, and Joe Blankenship with Bike Walk Casey came and joined us, and just kind of was good for him. He really does look to Johnson Drive as kind of a model regionally, and was really excited about a lot of the improvements and was excited to see it kind of in action. And the longer we were down there, we did speak with people, and they did, most of them were comfortable. We did speak to people who were more or less able-bodied, so, the harder it is for you to maneuver across the street, the longer you need people to wait on you to cross. And then some people, kind of joked us off and, said, it's great, we're fine, we don't need the aid necessarily. But everybody was really favorable to being down there, and we said, we're just really talking to you about proper crossing. You can't just jump into the street, but make eye contact, look both ways, use the beacons, cross at the beacons, it was all very positive. But we did, the longer we were down there, we just started making figure eights and using the beacons and interacting with drivers more and more and more. And I felt kind of like we were training the drivers. Honestly, every time, people who know what they're doing approach the intersection and use the signal and make eye contact and take a deliberate step into the crosswalk. And then wave afterwards. Thank you for stopping. Thank you for stopping. I feel like we're just training the whole street and everyone who uses it to kind of know what to expect. And I do think as volume of pedestrian traffic increases, that drivers will be aware that this is the type of street where I should expect a pedestrian may come out at any time. And I don't know how long that takes or where that volume tipping point is, but it did feel like we were training, that we were in a training.
If you ever been to KU
Yeah.
Med Center and those crosswalks,
Oh, yeah.
it's constantly.
Right.
And,
I always know when I go down there.
and they do, those pedestrians don't even
They don't even
pause.
look. They just go right across.
They are so trained
Right up there
that
next to
you're
it, yeah,
gonna
they just-
stop.
Yeah.
They just head on out and people stop. I mean,
Yeah.
you can
It's
literally.
like the pilots, they're trained.
Yeah.
No one looks as well, they just cross.
And you know it,
Yeah.
and you're careful because you know it. And
I agree. And I think, and to the point of the every other versus the regular crosswalk versus the beacon, I don't know what the right answer is there, but I know as a pedestrian who spent a lot of time on that street, and I may be, not the average test case, but I do, if I'm walking the whole distance, let's say from Mr. Goodson's to City Hall at Woodson, and I have to cross at some point to get back to City Hall, I will walk along one side until I get to the Beacon Street at Beverly and use the beacon and then cross over. And so I'm planning my route and I'm walking the length. So maybe not this typical case from someone who's parking in one block using it to get across to shop and then come back to their car. But it does funnel the pedestrian traffic at least to where the beacons are, if you know where they are. And then still when you just have a regular crosswalk, you're still interacting the same with those drivers. making eye contact, looking both ways, and being in a marked area where there would be a penalty for not yielding. But so I don't know, just personal experience, and then just from interacting with who we did. And we were also out there just really with the intention, like I said before, of letting pedestrians know that their role in this, that, you know, we're working with the drivers, with the police department, but you have a role too, and it takes both to try to keep that.
John, have you ever looked at Overland Park, downtown Overland Park? What's your speed limit?
Sure. Downtown Overland Park, I'm pretty confident it's 25.
Is it 25?
But it's set up a little differently than ours, because you kind of navigate in through
Yeah, but
there.
there's a lot of jaywalking.
There is a lot of
Yeah,
there's a lot,
jaywalking.
because I'll be honest, I do there, I just kind of dart across.
And people stop for them.
They do, but I think Johnson Drive is
It's so much more
unique in that.
straightforward
I think when you start to
than-
get those square things, 25 funnels probably okay.
Right.
But yeah, I'm horrible in downtown Overland Park. I just
Downtown
cross.
Overland
I'm
Park's
bad.
2 lanes, correct?
Right.
It is, yeah,
It is
it
two lanes.
is.
Two lanes. You know, it's
Yeah,
like
Daddy
downtown, we
always
send
does.
it out, it's
Makes a
kind
big
of
difference.
default to that. It's more like a grid setup.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, you've
Yeah,
got
definitely
streets that
different.
run both
But
ways.
people just jaywalk all the time, and
Oh.
everybody just stops for them on
Well,
Train.
yeah.
Train.
train. Yeah, exactly.
And it's a short little
Yeah.
piece of stretch of road, and you know that it's gonna happen, so.
Maybe the lights on the crosswalks, down the ground, if there are some out there, Denver obviously there are, or they're paying a lot of money to have them redone every year with the snow plows, I'm not sure, but
Because
maybe
you do
that's an
know they
option.
have snow, huh?
Yeah,
Well, that's something else. the fire
and you're right, Florida has them
department
too, that I think about,
What's
I've been to
The
Mark
fire
Island quite a
department
bit,
ought
and
to address
they're
that
right
too,
there.
because they don't like the bumps, so you might want to check with them, with the lights, fire
Mhm.
department.
True, yeah, trucks go over, it could be an issue.
What's where we don't have the beacons at the crosswalks, is there any kind of signage there at all?
There's pedestrian signs.
Just not lit.
Just your regular diamond shaped pedestrian sign.
Just put like a flashing light on it.
Those
Not
bumps
signal,
are
just
pretty
to
nice
stick a
bumps,
light
though.
on there and just let it flash.
They're not, you don't bottom out or anything.
Is that two of the AAA batteries?
That's it. Just like the ones you hang in closets, you just put the dome light on there,
Push.
push it in. Every morning I'll drive by on my way to work, I'll push them on. That you can turn them off, you do.
Yeah, I'll give them that. All right, cool.
Thank you, guys.
Is that it? Chief, you have more? Chief, did you have more on yours?
Good.
Okay.
Everybody speeds.
Yeah.
Honestly, I've been here a long time, and most people do between the speed limit and 5 hour.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know
I
what it
mean,
is.
you're not gonna get pulled over. I mean, otherwise you'd be pulling everybody over.
Yeah.
So, I mean, honestly, typically it's, most of the time in the city, it's about 10 and over. And then that's when I would pull you over, it was 10 and over in the city, and if it was on the highway, it was 15 and over. And that's just being honest, because if it was less than 15 and over on the highway, you'd be stopping everybody, because I'm telling you, we get cars on the highway that's 60 through there, and they're doing 70 all day long. And then you get the car that blows through 100. So. Yeah.
That's the one you get.
Yeah, so, but, and I told you all before that the state sets the speed limit in business districts at 20. And by city ordinance, that we've changed that to 30. And then when you look at all of Johnson Drive, and all of Johnson Drive is 30, the west end of the city has medians. The east side of Johnson Drive doesn't have any medians. It's all 4 lane the whole way until you get to North. So, just something for you guys to think.
Wonderful, thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Chief.
Informative.
All right, does anybody have anything other that they'd like to discuss? I don't either, let's turn it over to Dave. Pardon me?
Is that accurate? Oh, because Marcy's not here, so.
Well,
I am up. How about that? I didn't know I was gonna be on deck.
I don't think that's accurate.
It is accurate. You are correct. I'm wrong. This is always a riveting topic, the resolution declaring surplus property. Mr.
Small
Scott.
but waiting for. Okay, kind of the usual deal. We have several items for surplus declaration.
Thank you.
3 police cars. You will recall recently we approved the purchase of new police cars to replace those in the police department for admin. And so these will be the old cars that are being replaced. So once we move the new ones in, We will sell the old ones, that'll probably be sometime in January or so. And then the exercise equipment that Christie was talking about replacing, we declare that as surplus, as well as some various items.
I thought that was traded.
It is, we have to still declare it surplus.
Oh, I got you,
Yeah,
okay.
so that was kind of formality. And then finally, the other sheet I'm hanging out, this is kind of the last minute item that came up this afternoon, we got guns. So we have money.
I wondered when you said the walk.
Yeah, we've got money in the budget this year to buy guns, those have been ordered, so we're gonna declare the old one surplus.
Got a bunch of them.
Yeah. So we'll add that to the pot of
Issue those to
those.
the city council,
Once they leave here.
That's one of your best ideas ever. Anybody have any questions for Brian?
What, sorry, how many is, so is this all, what's the replacement ratio to old guns with Bill versus new?
So I
guns?
believe there's 37 Glock 40s, and we are going back to 9mm Glocks, and I believe we're purchasing 33.
Okay.
So
And what is the reason for that?
the guns that we have are anywhere between 7 to 10 years old, depending on who's carrying which gun downstairs. Everybody carries the same make and model, but they were all purchased at different times, and then this way it gets us on one replacement schedule. Everybody carries the exact same make and model, and we know that the shelf life on these guns should be about 8 to 10 years, and then we come back and replace them all at once.
They wear out?
I'm sorry?
They wear out?
We used to shoot about 3 times a year, and now the officers are shooting probably about every other month on a rotation. So it's one of those
So they
things
wear
that,
out.
yeah, we want to make sure that we're ready when the time
When they go to
comes.
the range, will they shoot like 150 rounds?
It depends. We don't spend 8 hours at the range anymore. Now you spend about 2 to 4 hours at the range each time you go, because after 8 hours you kind of get tired and worn down, and so. But this way we can shoot more often because it's a perishable skill. So if you go and shoot for 8 hours and then you don't go and shoot for 6 months, it'd be a problem.
Yep.
So.
It's a good term of art, perishable skill.
yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Take it to
I
council.
recommend that.
Thank you.
Consent.
Now, item number 2, if you ever saw the Seinfeld, this is not the human fund.
This is what I thought.
That George Costanza said that he made donations to. This is the human service fund. That we make the recommendation once a year. So with that, Brian?
Yes, this is the Human Service Fund that's administered by the United Community Services of Johnson County. And as Dave said, this is something we do every year. They have 15 participating communities as well as the county. And they distribute approximately $250,000 to $300,000 to about 13 separate agencies. So they have solicited grant proposals from the various agencies, and they've awarded those. You see that on page 2 in your packet. Some of the agencies include CASA, Johnson County and Wyandotte counties, Growing Futures Early Education Center, Harvesters, Johnson County Interfaith Hospitality Network, Gibbs TLC, Sunflower House, etc. So this year they've awarded about 301, almost 302,000 grants, and we're seeking contributions from all the cities that are participating. Our contribution will be about $7,000, and this is actually included in the budget for this year. So,
It's a great way to-
That's
It's
great.
a great way to pool resources and have impact.
Yep.
I was just wondering how you determine how much do cities contribute? Is that
based on population.
based on population? So Miriam versus Mission? I don't know.
So Miriam's 3,000, Mission's 7,000. They're close to population. So yeah.
Oh, are they? Miriam has it close to our population.
I can help you out on that, if you don't mind. Sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt.
That'd be great, thank you.
Mr. Blanc,
At Marion's
please.
council.
I'm
Sorry.
joking.
At Marion's council meeting a couple sessions ago, they noticed that, and they raised it to 7,000 to match mission
Okay.
voluntarily.
Oh,
because
that's
they
nice.
Saw that it was the
information exchange.
They've got the,
I hate to say it.
No, I'm telling you what, comfortable in the world of ideas.
they should be given the 14,000.
Delivering value with every
Sales tax
turn.
dollars to do
Yeah.
it, so.
I'm just doing my part.
I appreciate it, that was a question I had,
Only
so
small
I thought
players,
we
only
maybe
small parts.
had more people than
Didn't show up with
us.
our expert box over there.
Big population.
Absolutely.
How many cities do you have? I know the Fairway's not on here.
Yeah, it wasn't on there?
Not on my list.
After he harasses them, they'll be in the list.
Fairway's not on here. What's wrong with Fairway?
Dan, can you harass them and join the list?
Yeah,
Just
Westwood's
know that
looking
once
at
you
two.
write a story.
I mean, yeah, Westwood gets $200. They
No,
got,
Westwood Hills gives two.
Yeah, Westwood. Yeah.
That's a big difference.
And they are itty bitty, so.
Teeny tiny.
yeah,
Not as small as
Westwood's
Mission.
101,200, that's not a big deal.
All right.
But
I was
Fairway,
just curious, that's
Yeah.
all, so thank you.
Sounds like we're good
That's-
on that.
If it was just a voluntary thing or, appreciate it, thank
maybe
you.
we should put our family and
Yep.
option on there.
Well, I have to say, Brian, that is as much as I've heard you speak at any committee meeting today, which is good.
All right.
We should hear from you more often.
That's right.
But unfortunately, we now turn the microphone over to Mr. Patton for the emergency response plan.
Wait a minute, you don't
Real
have.
quick, I need a recommendation.
Oh, I think it came from Pat, it was unanimously scored.
Yes. Consent,
Consent.
So I think if the police department had it their way, the response plan for elected officials would be lock them in their houses, have no communication with them, because we always screw things up.
well, we're hoping that we never have that.
Absolutely not.
I thought it would have been bring them here and give them beer and they'll figure it out.
It's my understanding there were some additional questions about the elected officials' role during a disaster. So I thought I'd put together this thing. And it kind of goes along with what I had given you guys a few months back. And I don't know if anybody needs another copy of it, if it was included in any packets. Essentially, as an elected official, what we're hoping to get across to you tonight is there are essentially two types of disasters or things that would initiate the emergency operations plan. There's level 1 disasters and level 2 disasters. And there are a lot of things that occur that are more localized disasters that would never come to this. I mean, to get to this point, it would require a fairly significant event. So the things that we do on a somewhat daily basis in conjunction with the fire department, we look at the standoff we had at the apartment complex. I mean, that affected, or had the potential to affect, quite a few people. But it didn't rise to the level to where we needed to formally declare any type of emergency. So the level 1 types of disasters would be the ones like that. They're handled by the people that are in service at that time. We're not really calling upon county or state resources to assist us, things that we can handle during day-to-day operations, essentially. So it was like a large apartment complex fire, a gas line rupture, even if you had some sort of spill along the railroad tracks that were to be affecting the residents of Mission. Those are the types of things that would be considered a level 1 response. And at that point, we could declare a state of disaster or emergency. And that is handled through Johnson County Emergency Management. And that is something that is handled by the mayor specifically, and in the absence of the mayor, the city administrator can also handle that, or the president of the council in their absence as well. What that does, if we were to get to that point, is that opens up additional resources for us. So we can then call upon county resources, state resources, federal resources. It's almost like a chain of command that you go through. So the city declares a state of emergency, followed by the county declaring a state of emergency, followed by the state. So it just follows that chain of command, and that, and we have to follow that to make sure that we would get any reimbursement that we qualify for in response and recovery dollars. So that's kind of the chain of command on a level 1 disaster. A level 2 disaster, we hopefully will never have to deal with, but those are the large scale catastrophic types of disasters: terrorism, catastrophic tornadoes, catastrophic flooding, things like that, that then we would activate. I mean, we would definitely activate, and we have to follow those incident management principles to make sure that we are qualifying for the reimbursement for the recovery efforts. So things that would have typically require a longer response and recovery. In the event that a level 2 disaster were declared, in that case, as far as elected officials, the only people required to respond are the mayor and the chair of the Finance Administration Committee. Because in essence, the elected officials' role is to find us money, to figure out how we're going to pay for things. There are additional roles for you in emergencies, such as if after a declaration of emergencies declared, the mayor has certain, he can place restrictions on things. He can, curfews, things like that you see in certain disasters when they occur. And the council's role in that would be, I think, with three votes from council can overturn mayor's order. So that would be another one of the roles for the elected officials. But if we were to declare an emergency, you would receive a call or a text or an email from the city administrator or the city clerk. Like I said, most of the time it wouldn't be anything that would require you to respond. And so we would just follow along with our emergency operations plan, but you will definitely be contacted and updated as time goes on if we wouldn't request your response. There would be times that we would need you to respond if we thought that we might need to have an emergency meeting. At that point, if it was safe for you all to get here, we would set you up with Martha so she could arrange and do the things she needs to do to make sure it's a legal and formal meeting. And you would be in the EOC. Currently, our primary emergency operations center is listed as the city hall, essentially. And going through there, I'm hoping to make some changes to that to make it specifically the squad room in the police department. And that essentially is just because we have equipment down there. Right now, if we wanted to set up an emergency operations center in our training room upstairs, we have no telephones, no computers, nothing that we would need to operate. So our squad room is set up that would be better suited for that, and we would pretty much hopefully have you guys be in the conference room down there, and so you guys can kind of get updates immediately. And also keep in mind, when you talk about updates, keep in mind that with social media and the immediacy of the availability of the news media, you're going to hear reports that you might not have been updated on. But we need to make sure that we update you with the most accurate information we can. So keep in mind that when you hear information, don't panic. It might not be completely accurate or all telling at that point. So we just want to make sure that we have the ability to go check things out and get you the right information. So if you're not able to respond, or if it's if it's a condition, let's face it, you all are Mission residents. Obviously, there's a good chance that whatever we're calling this for may affect you. I mean, so there are provisions in our ordinances and through the league guide to get emergency replacements, because like I said, you very well may be affected by whatever it is that's going on. We don't want you to put your safety at risk to respond. And for sure, we don't want you guys to respond to the incident. You know, there will be a time and a place for us to get you guys to where it's going on, but we need to make sure that we know where you guys are at and are safe in case we need to have a meeting and do that. And it just, we don't want to muddy the waters. And as far as media relations, that is extremely important in these situations, especially when we're mandated to follow those incident management roles. There's a designated public information officer that we want to make sure that the information is coming from directly down from the chain of command and being put out. And that's not to say that whoever we would like to be putting out that information. And you've seen in different disasters on the news that at some point it would be the public information officer for the city, or the police department public information officer, or the fire department public information officer. And that's when you're giving out, you know, the briefing, status updates, things like that. But when it comes to, you know, the more human aspect of the story, that's when you typically see your elected officials giving those types of statements in those scenarios. So it's just kind of a nutshell of, and I know it's not, there's no clear-cut answer because we never, and hopefully we'll never have to get to that point. But essentially, so the elected official's role is to kind of be available, not necessarily present at the incident or at the Emergency Operations Center unless we feel like we need to go ahead and assemble you guys for any emergency action that would need to be taken.
Thank you, that was concise and informative.
Was everybody part of that FEMA conversation when the man from FEMA came? Before Jason, but you saw that.
Yeah.
I thought that was, I don't know who set that up, whether it was the police department, administration, but I thought that was well done, especially how you establish an emergency operations center and just declare it level 1 or level 2, and how all the pieces work together. So thanks, Dan. Sure. Any questions?
No, sir.
Well, like you said, hopefully we'll never have to.
Right. Definitely want to be ready.
That's right, absolutely.
Is it mandatory then to have once every year? Is it like taking CPR? That you have to stay, you know, you have to take your CPR every year?
Not necessarily.
Not
The city's taken a step through resolution to adopt the national information, the NIMS standard for how we respond to these things. So that, and then the majority of you have been through the roles, the FEMA course for elected officials. So, yeah. I mean,
So is that just considered good enough?
Right, and then, you know, as time progresses, what I'm hoping to do is kind of do more practical exercises because we need to make sure that we're ready operationally, not just theoretically. So I'm going to continue to ramp it up and be moving through more practical type exercises, tabletop exercises to make sure that we're prepared and have a good idea of who's doing what in the event that we have to put this
You
in
have to
place.
take a refresher course for FEMA, that thing.
Oh, we have to go through all sorts.
No, but I mean the council, like.
No, I mean, it's always optional, if, you know,
No, I just.
Suzie up for 3 day course.
How about you be train the trainer, Suzie?
Oh, thank you.
Great, that's what I need to know. Thank you so much.
The agenda now says other. Is there anything other that anyone wishes to discuss?
Nothing.
You got your billfold?
Pardon me?
You got your billfold?
I do. Is there a need?
Yeah.
I'm here, what do you need?
I need your money.
When do you need that, like Suzie?
Is that for the
Like
Thanksgiving
15,
meeting?
20, remember?
All right, so we're all going to be together on Monday, the 16th. Is that too late?
No, that's fine.
That's
Work
great.
session on
Nobody
Monday,
will-
16th.
And
Talk about the.
And White Sox. Do they need more than 16,000 pairs of White
Yeah,
Sox?
absolutely.
that's our goal. Our goal is 24.
Oh, so even though the church is
Yeah,
giving
yeah, we'll take
16,000?
anyone, yeah, because we're the high school has to go.
Hey, Brian, one thing I would like to note about the work session on Monday, the 16th, I would like to see in advance, if we could, an agenda. I'm uninterested in a 90-minute presentation
Right.
that is one voice.
We've all talked to him anyway, so there should be some.
Okay. Well, and here's the deal, if we don't have an agenda, we could be here for 4 hours
Yes.
talking about things that are not in front of us to talk about yet.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I just have a quick question. I know we're getting requests from food trucks, and I just wondered how other cities handle those with permits. And I think we ought to be prepared for that, because I've had businesses ask me how we can just allow food trucks to pull up and park and not pay a permit. Should we not be prepared for them, because other businesses pay an occupational license?
Yeah, that's a good
And
point.
so I think we need to be prepared for some of the food trucks like
We might have to draft an ordinance if we don't already have something.
Correct. Oh, correct. Yes.
3.5 years ago, Pat, you never would have said that.
Why?
That's
You
great.
don't like words.
It's the evolution. Back when, that's great.
Why would I not have said that?
Just
Yes.
saying.
Socks
No
by
way around
what?
municipalities.
Yeah, when do we need the socks?
Stops by the 19th.
All right, I'll bring you that in, cash on 16.
We need lots of white socks, because we want to make sure that the homeless have plenty.
You don't need the candles this year?
We need candles.
Okay.
We do, we need candles for the homeless.
Thanks, Dan. Candles.
Candles,
All right,
because that's-
so no other business?
Agenda for work session, ordinance, or review of ordinance from the food trucks and white
I don't think
socks.
we have, I don't
You
think
got
we-
it.
I don't think we have an ordinance on food
No,
trucks.
no, yeah, we'll review it.
Suzie requested a separate work session.
Just to cover food trucks.
Just to go through the. Is that what she's got?
Add a food truck.
Let's do that right after your 3-day FEMA training.
Yes, we'll be ready to go.
Yes, thanks for the.
Thank you all for coming, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice work.
Anything you
You're on for
can-
lunch tomorrow still?